So to update the application, we just click on the More tab, and then we can click on the Update. The updater is actually the same as ACA updater, and we can force it to update all of the content, and then we can click OK. I have done it before, so I'm not going to do the update, and I hope everything goes well with everybody. So now I'm going to go over the HSB Timber ribbon that we have installed in the Revit part. First of all, I would like to mention that we have a settings function here to organize all the settings from hsbCAD. We have some general settings to set the company directory path that's actually needed to use all the exporter functionality that we have. Then there's also a shop drawing templates path, but I will point out what it does later on. We have a HSB Share tab where we can insert the model name. Also, we have some more tabs about SIP and stick frame. Then we also have a tab about beams. This is kind of important because this function here, enable beams to accept hsbCAD tools, allows us to automatically enable all the beams that are created, all the structural framings that are created inside the Revit model, to enable the coded family extensions onto the Revit family. I will explain later on what the coded family extension does and how it works. But we can also disable this and then manually disable or enable the coded family extension that we need on the correct family. I'm just going to enable it for the moment. Then the last tab is the language tab. And here we can select a couple of languages. At the moment, because of this is still a beta version, we are supporting the English version completely. We are supporting partly the German version, the Italian version, and yeah, one other, but I don't see it in the list at the moment. Okay, so you can set the language which you like. Then I'm going over to the start of the ribbon. We can create some beams and insert some beams that are really hsbCAD beams. So here we can select the family types that are really Revit types, and then we can just insert the beams that we need. As you can see, these are hsbCAD beams, but they are Revit families. So we try to use, with our version from Revit, to use only Revit functionality. That's very important. So that the user doesn't get strangled along with things that they don't understand at the moment. So I've completed a whole frame actually from those beams, and and columns as well to work with later. Then we have some functionalities to frame edges and frame surfaces, but at the moment, since it's a beta version, those functionalities aren't working. But it's possible to create some beam systems, as we can see here, automatically by using these functions on a roof. But in the next session, we can explain further on, as these functions will work at that time. So the most important part of the HSB Timber ribbon tab is actually our tools that we can that allow us to create a proper Revit model. On the left, we have a set of tools that are being used to connect two or more beams with each other. We have here, for example, the hsbCAD Dovetail, a half flap, a shoulder, and those are all tools that can be used to connect two beams to each other. I'm going to try and explain what these tools do. So I'm going to insert a dovetail. As you can see, I'm going to start over just to notify what is going on. So I'm clicking on the Dovetail tool, and then Revit is giving me some information on how I should apply this tool. So on the bottom left corner, we can see the select male beams, and then we are just going to select the male beam. At the moment, we're only going to select one. Then we can press finish or enter. And then Revit is giving me another explanation on how to select the female beam. I'm going to select the female beam, and the tool is applied. As you can see, we have now a connection between this beam and this beam. What we've added here to complete the connection is 3 families. We have an hsbCad handler Dovetail. That's actually the boss and the controlling family over the entire connection. Also, we have added a void that is cutting the male beam, and also a void that is cutting the female beam. As you can see, this is an hsbCad void Dovetail female. Actually, now the most important part is that our hsbCad handler Dovetail is actually a Revit family being created by us. And behind this Revit family, we have attached some intelligence. We call that the coded family extensions. The coded family extensions actually mean some intelligence between the Revit family and and how it reacts inside the Revit model. On that option, it's, for example, possible to edit some type. You can see here that, for example, the tool changes. And now I'm going to explain how this happens. So here we have the boss, the controller, and here we are setting the parameters to modify these voids. As you can see, this void has been extended because we've changed a Revit property. If our program, HSB Timber on AutoDesk Revit, wouldn't be installed, the voids wouldn't react. So it's actually the code behind the Revit family that is controlling all the voids. I hope that's clear. And if it's not, you can still ask me some more questions. And also what it does, it can control the connection between the two beams. So if a beam moves, it's always going to be connected. Otherwise, Revit is going to give a message that it can be connected, for example, if the cut can be made anymore. I hope this is clear, because this is a very important part from our software. And now I'm going to add some more tools to visualize and see what our product can do. So, for example, I can add a shoulder to these parts. Again, this is Revit giving me some explanation in the bottom left corner. Select male beams. Now, for example, I can select 2 male beams with a multiple select. Again, press finish or enter, and then it's giving me another thing to do. Select the female beam. So I'm going to select the female beam, and now you can see that the connection has been made. I'm going to add some more connections, shoulders here and here, and I'm going to continue working with this model. For example, I'm going to add a scarf joint here by clicking first the one beam and then the second beam. It's inserting a scarf joint. I can insert a tenon here to connect these beams. Also tenon here to connect these beams. As you can see, it's going very fast. Also, I can add a dovetail here. Because of the scarf joint that has been moved, it's giving a rather weird impression. So this is actually wrong, but we have a possibility in our software to recalculate. So if we recalculate, the software recognizes it and recalculates the whole beam and the connection. So this is a rather important function. If you see that something is wrong, you can always recalculate, and then the software will fix it. So this is actually the part of the connecting multiple beams to each other. This is the left part of the tools section. Then also,
sorry,
yes,
will they recalculate everything, or do you need to select the object that you want to recalculate?
You need to select the object, but you can also say recalculate all, for example. So then it's going to recalculate all. This is very important because if you just performance-wise, you only want to recalculate the one that you need, because in a big project that could take some time, but not okay. Then to continue, there's also a tools part, the right part, and this is actually some tools that can be applied on one beam or other tools as well. For example, we can apply an arc on this beam. As you can see, it's being recalculated and added. Then we can also add a chamfer here. We can also do some other stuff. Wait, I'm going to add here an end chamfer on this beam, which is looking nice. And then we can actually dress our model. So here I'm going to explain on how to add a hanger. Once again, I click the Add Hangers button, and it's giving me the explanation on the bottom left corner to select timbers. I'm just going to select here these two connections. I can press Enter, and the software is going to retrieve the connection between those beams. Then I just can add here and select in our database of hangers. I can select the category, solid timber or engineered wood, and then the code. And here is the all the dimensions from the hanger that I can add. So as you can see, it has added a hanger. Once again, this is a Revit family. It's allowing everything to it's parameterized. So also here there is some intelligence behind it. If you modify it, it will restore it and recalculate. So it will all be connected and stay correctly. You can play around with the hanger model. Everyone has the database that is provided at the moment, so you can add and see what the possibilities are to add or remove a hanger. Then we have some utilities that are easy to use. So I already explained the recalc functionality, but then there's also functionality to create some posnums. Button. Once again, it's giving me the explanation, select timbers. I cross-select all the beams, press enter or finish, and then I get some settings on how I should configure the posnums. The start number, keep the existing numbers or not, one item per number. So at the moment, the posnums are created the same way as an ACA. If there is a beam that is exactly the same, dimension-wise, they will all have the same posnum. So if you click this, each item will have another number, of course. Then it's getting the posnums. As you can see here in the options, this beam received the HSB posnum 11. It's also possible to modify it here, but I wouldn't recommend it because you would get some strange behavior then. So another function here is isolate coded extension and beams. So the coded extension, we know already, that's the intelligence behind the handlers. So we can actually select here our coded extension, and it will isolate all the beams that are connected to this coded extension, which is a nice tool, of course. We can then reset temporary height, isolate. Also, another function is to isolate the beam and his tools. So once again, we select the beam, and all the tools and the voids and all the cuts are being isolated, which gives a nice view. Can reset it again. And now I'm going to go over the next functionality, the creation of shop drawings. We can actually have here, I've showed you the settings before, where the shop drawings template part is. So here in this part, you can add some templates that could be added to this Revit project. At the moment, I've added some shop drawing templates here in the Sheets section of Revit. These are just templates with some anchors in it to add some visualization into the shop drawing template. It will become clear when I activate the program. So here we can create shop drawings, for example, for beams. This section here allows us to either way select the shop drawing template that is inside the model, or maybe import from the content, or import from the file. This will become clear when you're using the shop drawing information. So at the moment, I'm just going to activate the shop drawing template beam that is inside the model. Now it just asks me to select the timbers that I need. I'm just going to select this one. And now it's creating the shop drawing with all the dimension. Here we can see that the beam with Posnum 11 has been created. Here a sheet 11 beam. Okay, now it's selected. And we can see all the dimensions that are going on inside this beam. So here we have the chamfer, we have the arc, we have the shoulder, we have the scarf joint. So our shop drawings gives us the correct dimensions. And the neat thing is that we can adjust, for example, the chamfer, the length here. And then if we go back to our sheet, you will see that the chamfer dimensioning has changed with it. So it's all Revit intelligence between behind this shop drawing. These are all views created, and it's all Revit intelligence to create these shop drawings. So it's a very, very powerful tool to have in our HSB Timber ribbon. If somebody has some questions about it, please shoot. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. Okay. Once again, I'm going to create the Posnums. And then I come to the next part, the exporter part. So this actually is the same exporter as in ACA. So for people who have been using the ACA part, this will be very familiar. So we can access the hsbCad exporter. This is a window very familiar in ACA. So I've created a group. So here we have the HSB Export Manager, and I've created a group. This group contains, for example, 4 exports that are possible at the moment. For example, I've created a Hundegger export, BTL export, Excel export, and an IFC export. Of course, there are many more exports available. For example, here we have a PDF export, a Jasper export, and many more that are possible. So we can create and add an export here just give it a name and add, for example, the model map export or a Weinman export, and then we can configure how this export should look like. This, for example, is a configuration export settings for the BTL. We can configure how the export should look like, but this is a part that should be explained in another training session. We can give it a name, description, an output location, and then the export should be added to this hsbCad group. To continue with the hsbCad exporter, so I can select the group that I've shown earlier, and then I can select how I should, or which items I can select during the exporter. Now I'm going to choose to select the beams, but I can also select it all, and then all the items will be selected and the export will be continued. So here we have the destination directory path where all the exports will be saved to, and then we have an exporter file name that you can modify as well. This is standard, the Revit file name at the moment. So I'm going to select all the beams that I want to export. And now it's running the exporter. As you can see, it has run the Hundegger export, the BTL export. Now it's processing the Excel export, and at last the IFC export. As you can see, luckily we have exported without any issues. And here is the location of where each file has been saved. I'm going to open the BTL export to show you what it has done. Here we have the complete model, and of course we only have created one beam with a couple of tools. So I can zoom into it and select the beam, and as you can see, all the tools that we applied during the session are also available inside the BTL export. So we have the scarf joint, the dovetail, we have the arc, double cut, and so on, the chamfer, the endless cut, and in the end. So this is actually a quite complete BTL export. Also, I can show you the Excel export that has come out of it. I can go to the beams. We can see all the posnums that were created inside the model. We can see the quantity. So we have found, for example, 8 beams with the same posnum, the same dimensions. This result, of course, in some volumes and length calculations, which gives a nice overview. And then last but not least, we've exported an IFC. I'm going to open it in Solibri. And then we can see also the IFC export from this part. I can see if I can isolate this one. Oh, yeah, it's not really visible. Okay, but as you can see, the IFC has been exported as well. Then also inside our ribbon, we have an HSB Share part. Our HSB Share application is our online cloud BIM platform where we allow all users to communicate with the same model. So through Revit, we can upload our model inside our HSB Share account. So we can, oh, that was not it. So we can give our login, our password, then submit, and this model will be automatically uploaded to the cloud where we can access it everywhere online. Then the settings part, I've been over the settings part before. The help is actually very helpful, but since we are still in the beta part, our support team is doing everything they can to update the HSB Academy at the moment, but this will guide you to our HSB Timber Revit part inside the HSB Academy. Of course, you can see a detailed part of all our tools that are inside our Revit Timber. So, for example, we can see some explanation about the tenon, some images, but all this will also change within the coming few weeks. I'm going to go back to Revit. Here we have some more actions that we can do. We have a Learn More package, which is guiding us to our website and the HSB Timber on Revit part. And then, of course, we can also activate the license registration if we have some troubles to register our license, or if you are still in the trial mode. And then we have some more information about which version we're currently working on, where the install path is, and so on. So this is also very important to see on which version everyone is working on. Okay, so this is the end of my explanation of our HSB Timber on AutoDesk Revit product at the moment.